This is literally a very important video because the market is facing a threat that could be worse than the collapse of Luna and FTX combined. I'm sure you guessed that this is about the loss of the USDC peg to the dollar. What happened? What consequences could this have? And what to do with your money now in this stablecoin? Let's get to the bottom of this. Video will be divided into two parts. In the first one, we analyze why USDC didn't hold, although yesterday this project seemed to be the most stable. In the second part, let's talk about what will happen to the market, how not to lose money, and whether the Fed will be able to take control of the situation at an emergency meeting on Monday, March 13th. The real root cause was yesterday's regulatory closure of Silicon Valley Bank, which, by the way, was the 18th largest bank in the United States in terms of capital, and Circle, which is the issuer of the USDC, held in it $3.3 billion, which was part of the total security of the stablecoin. Given that amount, we are dealing with about 9% of the total capitalization of the USDC, which may now just evaporate. After all, according to the American law, the depositors of the regulating bank receive only $250,000 from each deposit. That is, depending on the format of the Silicon Valley Bank, it turns out real to take a sum of $3 3/10 billion on the order of only $300 million. After learning this and doing some simple math, it became clear that the real price of USDC at the moment is around 90 cents, and about this much the market gives now for this token, and its capitalization has fallen by 14%, from $43 to $37 billion. And the volume of trade has risen sharply, by 380%, because everyone rushes to get rid of USDC, and how not to get rid of it. If such top exchanges as Binance and Coinbase officially announce the termination of the conversion of USDC and other stablecoins, this is an interesting decision of the exchanges which, on the one hand, protect themselves from being left with potentially illiquid assets as USDC, but on the other hand contain this collapse. Because if the conversion window was not closed, the run from USDC would be much faster, and we would see the price not of 90, but for example 80 cents. In fact, it is extremely important to make it to Monday, because the banks are not working on weekends. If it is banal, there is no place to borrow the missing $3 billion to remove all questions concerning the USDC collateral. And in addition, on Monday, March 13th, an emergency meeting of the Fed on the situation in the banking system is urgently scheduled, where decisions can also be made to avoid the worst situation and not allow the USA to fall into a new financial crisis. On that note, it's time to move on to the analysis of the consequences of these events. Let's start with the fall of decentralized DAI. The fact is that this token is issued by DeFi Project Maker and has a collateral model. That is, you pay a deposit in cryptocurrency and get the corresponding amount of stablecoins. And the pledge is made with excess to compensate possible fall of its value due to market collapse, and everything would be fine. But everyone wants to earn. That's why part of the pledge for DAI was in USDC, which could be additionally remortgaged at interest in other DeFi. This decision was accepted by project community, and it seemed to be completely logical, because USDC had reputation of the most stable coin, because of 100% guarantee and good links with regulators. Let me remind that recently the issue of bust was closed with SEC, but USDC had no questions from regulators. But nobody could guess that in just a week, the USA would be in a situation of potential bank collapse and that such a reliable security of USDC could disappear in a moment. I want to pay your attention that trade volumes of DAI increased more than 800%. From this coin, also all try to get out if possible, and what is interesting, now it is profitable to those who have a loan in DAI. Now it is very convenient to buy it out of the market at a lower price and close their liabilities. The protocol will lose money on this, but there's nothing you can do about it. It works on a smart contract, and quickly change its algorithms will not work. By the way, here is the official statement of Maycore on the situation that the security they have enough, and there was no liquidation. This is a very important point, because if Maker would fall, all DeFi which uses DII to provide liquidity would be under immediate threat. The next important consequence is what the regulators will do with stablecoins. Even after the UST story, they actively took up this direction. But then, the collateral coins looked generally reliable. But now politicians have every right to declare the threat of stablecoins to the banking system and proceed with even stricter controls. The paradox of the situation is that the USDC began to fall because of the bank collapse, and they are not directly related to the liquidation of Silvergate and then Silicon Valley Bank, but politicians have no problem turning the situation upside down and presenting it in that light, that you see what problems arise when someone other than the state issues money. So I won't be surprised if soon the representatives of authorities will come to the office of Circal, and maybe they will be made to stop issuing stablecoin like Paxos, and will be allowed to work only for redemption of already existing USDC. Now, the answer to a question that many people are sure to be interested in: why in the current situation Bitcoin has not yet fallen to $10,000? As you can see on the chart, the USDS story broke the possible market recovery to the $20,000 level. For now, we try to hold. This can be explained by the fact that USDC at the moment is not a scam like UST and FTX turned out to be, where all the collateral has literally evaporated. The circles still have access to 90% of their assets, so this crisis may pass similar to the closing of Buzzed. They will just make a payment to everybody. In addition, there is hope for the Fed meeting, which does not need a banking crisis in the US, and 2 banks have already collapsed in a week, and this may not be the limit. That's why the market is living in hope that the regulator will decide to save the problem bank simply by giving them money. It is unlikely they are interested in the fate of the Silicon Valley Bank, but the collapse of the banking system is certainly not needed. And if it can be stopped by handing out a few $100 billion in the bank, it is very likely to be done, and the crisis will end prematurely. I'm not giving financial advice or a decision to keep the USDC going or to sell urgently. You have to take it personally. What would I personally do in such a situation? I would try to transfer USDC and USDT or Bitcoins, let with a loss of about 10% taking into account the current price, but it is an acceptable loss, taking into account the risk to lose everything. Although here and now, the probability of a complete USDC roll is still small. It's only going to happen if the skulls stop paying the bills. The question is whether you are willing to take that risk and wait to see how this story ends, and whether you believe in a bailout meeting of the Fed in 2 days. Your likes and subscriptions will help promote the video. It's really important to show it to as wide an audience as possible this time. Thanks for watching. Your cryptocurrencies.